What if one night the entire foundation of human knowledge was stolen? Imagine a city at the peak of its glory holding the greatest treasures of the ancient world. Books, scrolls, maps, and ideas that shaped the course of civilization. Now imagine that city falling, not to a natural disaster, but to a single force, a destructive, unstoppable tide that sweeps away everything in its path. That city was Baghdad, and its treasure, the House of Wisdom, the heart of learning in the Islamic Golden Age. It wasn't just a library, it was a beacon, a place where scholars from every corner of the world came to study. Mathematicians, doctors, astronomers, philosophers. This was where they gathered, where they created knowledge that would influence the course of history. But then, in a single catastrophic night in 1258, everything changed. The Mongols arrived, and the House of Wisdom was torn apart. Books, scrolls, and manuscripts that had taken centuries to collect were destroyed, or worse, lost. What happened that night? Was it truly just a fire? Or was there something else going on? A deeper, more sinister reason behind why this knowledge was targeted? The building burned, yes, but was it just the physical structure that fell? Or did something more profound disappear from the world's collective memory? What if, in the ashes of that night, the foundation of modern science, philosophy, and medicine was buried forever? Think about it. 700,000 manuscripts, gone in a flash. The brightest minds of the time, losing everything they had worked for, all in a matter of hours. Yet, amidst all the destruction, one question remains. What really disappeared that night? And here's the chilling part. Some believe that the most valuable knowledge wasn't destroyed at all. What if those manuscripts were stolen? What if they didn't burn in the flames, but instead, they were carefully removed from the ashes? And if they were taken, then who took them? And why? Some say it was the Mongols themselves, but what if it wasn't them at all? What if those who knew the true value of these texts, those in positions of power, wanted them hidden for a reason? As Baghdad burned, some of the greatest knowledge of the ancient world may have been quietly hidden away, perhaps in private collections, in places we'll never find, or perhaps even in the vaults of the Vatican, where secrets have always been kept in the dark. But here's the twist. These weren't just any books. These weren't just about astronomy or mathematics. Some of these manuscripts were filled with ancient wisdom, knowledge that might have challenged the very way we understand the world. What was in those pages? And why has no one ever spoken about them again? This was no ordinary library. The House of Wisdom held the accumulated knowledge of civilizations that predated even the rise of Islam. Some of these writings contain scientific knowledge ahead of its time, describing celestial movements, advanced medical techniques, and mathematical formulas that only centuries later would be rediscovered. It wasn't just the Mongols that attacked Baghdad that night. It was a conspiracy of silence, a desire to suppress knowledge that could shift the power dynamics of the world. As the pages of history were torn from the hands of those who fought to protect them, the world quietly forgot. But did the world truly forget? Or were we made to forget? And if those ancient texts could still be found today, what truths could they reveal? Could it be that everything we know about human history has been rewritten? Could these lost manuscripts hold the answers to questions we've never dared to ask? And more importantly, why does no one want to talk about it? The night the House of Wisdom fell wasn't just the end of a building, it was the beginning of a hidden truth, buried under layers of time, dust, and fear. And if the books were taken, if the knowledge survived, where is it now? Stay with me, because the real story of the House of Wisdom isn't over. The truth is still buried, and we've only just started to uncover what was lost that night. Before the fire, the House of Wisdom was the most renowned center of learning in the world. Baghdad, in the 8th century, wasn't just a city. It was a beacon, a place where the greatest minds from all over the world gathered, exchanging knowledge, ideas, and discoveries. It was the crossroads of culture, science, and philosophy. And at the heart of it all was the House of Wisdom, more than just a library. It wasn't just shelves full of books. It was an academy, a university, and a translation center that brought the best of the world's knowledge under one roof. Scholars here weren't just copying texts, they were transforming them. They translated the works of Aristotle, Ptolemy, Galen, and countless others into Arabic, preserving and expanding upon the knowledge of the ancient world. They studied everything from mathematics to astronomy, from medicine to philosophy. The House of Wisdom wasn't just storing knowledge, it was creating knowledge. The brightest minds of the Islamic Golden Age came here to study. Doctors, mathematicians, astronomers, and philosophers all gathered in one place. They built on the works of the Greeks, Egyptians, Persians, and Indians, mixing them with their own discoveries and ideas. It was a melting pot of ideas, a place where cultures collided and transformed the world. They didn't just read the books, they debated them. They didn't just translate, they dissected every word, every theory, every formula. In the House of Wisdom, the world as they knew it was being rewritten. But there was something even more powerful happening in this center of knowledge. These scholars weren't just thinkers, they were innovators. They didn't stop at the words of Aristotle or Ptolemy. They used the ancient knowledge of the past to create new ideas, new theories. It was in this very place that the zero was first used in mathematics. It was here that algebra was developed. The concept of optics was born here. And most famously, it was here that the works of Galileo and Copernicus would later influence the Western world. All this right here in Baghdad, a city where knowledge wasn't just being studied, but pushed forward. The House of Wisdom was a symbol of human potential, showing the power of intellect and collaboration. It was a place where science met philosophy, where astronomy met mathematics, and where history met innovation. It wasn't just an archive of the past, it was the blueprint for the future. But then came that fateful night, the night when everything changed. In 1258, the Mongols, led by Hulagu Khan, descended upon Baghdad. The city, once a beacon of learning and civilization, was now helpless against the overwhelming force of the Mongol army. The House of Wisdom, its grand halls filled with knowledge and wisdom, was set ablaze. Books, scrolls, and manuscripts, hundreds of thousands of them, were destroyed in the fire. The great library that had once held the knowledge of the ancient world was now reduced to ashes. But the story doesn't end there, because while the flames devoured the building, there are accounts that say the fire was just the beginning of a much deeper loss. What if it wasn't just the fire that destroyed the House of Wisdom? What if the real loss came before the flames even touched the books? Could it be that while the building burned, the most valuable manuscripts, the ones that held the most dangerous knowledge, were removed? What happened to those books? And why did they matter so much? The truth of what was lost that night doesn't just lie in the flames of the fire. It lies in the mystery of what disappeared before the fire even started. The Mongols didn't just invade a city, they wiped out an entire way of thinking. When the Mongols came to Baghdad in 1258, they didn't just come for conquest. They didn't come just for land or gold. They came with the intention to destroy, to dismantle everything that Baghdad had become, everything it stood for. The Mongols didn't only attack buildings and walls, they attacked the very foundation of civilization itself. At the heart of Baghdad stood the House of Wisdom, a place of knowledge, innovation, and intellect that had flourished for centuries. It wasn't just a library, it wasn't just a university, it was the epicenter of human knowledge at the time. Scholars from all over the world came to this great institution to translate ancient works, to discuss ideas, to study the stars, the human body, the laws of nature. It was the beating heart of the Islamic Golden Age, a period that brought monumental advancements in science, mathematics, medicine, and philosophy. But when the Mongols arrived, they didn't come with books to read. They came with fire. And with fire, they set the House of Wisdom ablaze. In an instant, thousands of priceless manuscripts, scrolls, and books were reduced to nothing but ash and smoke. An entire intellectual world destroyed. The flames consumed more than just the building, they consumed centuries of knowledge that had been gathered, refined, and passed down through generations. Scholars who had dedicated their lives to these texts watched helplessly as their life's work vanished in front of their eyes. But here's the mystery. Did everything burn? We know the House of Wisdom was set on fire, but was the fire the end of the story? Was everything truly lost? What if some things were never meant to burn? What if the most dangerous knowledge wasn't destroyed at all? It's easy to imagine that everything in the House of Wisdom was burned to the ground. But there's evidence, rumors, whispers, Even accounts from the time that suggest the Mongols didn't just destroy books and scrolls. They took things. What did they take? Why was there no resistance to the knowledge being removed from the city before the fire spread? Some say that as the city burned, some manuscripts were quietly moved, smuggled out of the flames by scholars, by those who knew the value of what was inside these books. But who would have taken them? And what happened to those texts afterward? Why are we not taught about these lost books? Why has history forgotten the most significant intellectual loss of the medieval world? The destruction of the House of Wisdom wasn't just a physical loss, it was an intellectual massacre. And still to this day, there's no clear record of what exactly was lost. We don't know the full extent of what was stolen from the House of Wisdom that night. Perhaps, in the aftermath of the destruction, some things were hidden away. Some manuscripts were taken elsewhere, smuggled into secret vaults or private collections. But who took them, and why? The Mongols weren't interested in preserving knowledge. Their goal wasn't to understand or study, it was to obliterate. They came to break the very spirit of Baghdad, the city that had once stood as a beacon of knowledge. But in breaking it, did they leave behind a trail? Did some of the greatest works of the House of Wisdom survive, even if only in secret? What if some of these lost manuscripts were quietly hidden away, preserved in places we've never thought to look? The story of the Mongol invasion isn't just about the destruction of a city, it's about what was lost and what might still be hidden. Because some knowledge is too powerful to let die. Some truths are too dangerous to leave unspoken. And the question remains, why does no one talk about what was stolen from Baghdad's House of Wisdom? What was truly lost that night? Could the knowledge of ancient civilizations still be out there, waiting to be uncovered? Are there fragments of the lost works of the House of Wisdom hiding in private collections, in places we haven't looked yet? What was in those books, and why did they matter so much that they had to be destroyed? When the Mongols breached the gates of Baghdad, the city wasn't just burned, it was erased. The House of Wisdom, the crown jewel of knowledge in the Islamic world, was set on fire. The library that housed over 700,000 manuscripts, texts that were not just valuable but foundational, was engulfed by flames. But here's the question that lingers. Were all the books destroyed? Some say that as the smoke billowed into the sky, the rarest, most valuable texts were quietly taken, hidden away by scholars, protectors of knowledge, or perhaps even by those who saw the power of what lay in these scrolls and had their own motives for preserving them. But if the books were taken, what were they really? What kind of knowledge could have been inside those manuscripts that was so dangerous it had to be hidden, protected, and erased from history? At the time, the House of Wisdom wasn't just a place to read. It was a center of knowledge, a living, breathing intellectual engine that powered some of the greatest scientific, mathematical, and philosophical advancements of its time. Astronomy, medicine, mathematics. These were not just subjects. These were fields of study that shaped the world. But those manuscripts weren't just filled with everyday knowledge. Some of the texts described ancient knowledge, wisdom passed down from long-forgotten civilizations that predated the Islamic Golden Age. These weren't just books about the stars or the human body. They were filled with ideas that were too radical for the world at that time. Ideas that could rewrite history. It's said that among the scrolls there were secrets, forbidden knowledge that could challenge the very foundations of religious and scientific beliefs. Could there have been ancient astronomical charts that predicted celestial events, perhaps thousands of years in advance? Or medical manuscripts that contained cures for diseases we still haven't figured out today? What if these books didn't just contain knowledge about the present? They held the keys to unlocking mysteries of the past. Could they have contained maps of lost civilizations? Could they have held secrets about a world that once existed but has now been erased? The greatest minds of the time, from astronomers to mathematicians to philosophers, contributed to the wealth of knowledge stored in the House of Wisdom. But these weren't just practical writings. Some of these texts were metaphysical in nature. They spoke of the mysteries of the universe, the very fabric of existence, the nature of time and space, ideas that might have sounded too radical, too controversial for the religious or political powers of the time. Why would such knowledge need to be hidden? What was so dangerous about these ideas that they had to be removed from the public record? And why have they been forgotten? Some scholars believe that these lost texts weren't just lost in the flames. They were intentionally removed by those who knew their power. Were they hidden in the vaults of a secret society? Were they taken by foreign powers? Perhaps even brought to Europe or other distant lands, where they were buried deep in hidden libraries? And if these manuscripts survived, where are they now? For centuries, historians and scholars have searched for remnants of these lost works. Some believe they've been hiding in plain sight. Others believe they've been locked away, kept safe by those who understood the value of the knowledge they contained. Could the secrets of the House of Wisdom still be waiting to be uncovered? Perhaps in some forgotten archive in some dusty corner of the world. Perhaps in the vaults of the Vatican or in the libraries of powerful institutions that have long had an interest in keeping such knowledge buried. One thing is certain, the texts that were hidden away, the ones that were stolen from the House of Wisdom, hold something of unimaginable value. The questions they raise challenge everything we know about the history of humanity. What if those books contain the truth about ancient civilizations that were lost to time? What if they contain knowledge about the origins of humanity, knowledge that could change the way we view the world? Some believe that the answers are still out there, waiting to be uncovered. Others think these answers may never see the light of day, locked away by those who fear their power. And the greatest mystery of all is this: why has the world chosen to forget the true significance of the House of Wisdom's loss? Because it wasn't just a library. It was a repository of humanity's greatest achievements, and the loss of that knowledge was a blow to the progress of civilization itself. Perhaps we'll never fully understand what was lost, but the question still remains: what was in those books, and why did they matter so much that they had to be hidden away? After the fire, the world didn't mourn. Instead, it moved on. But why? When the House of Wisdom burned, it should have been a moment the world never forgot. A loss so great, so monumental, that it shook the foundations of human knowledge. Yet strangely, history didn't hold on to this tragedy. Instead, the story faded into silence. The destruction of Baghdad's great library became a footnote, mentioned briefly, almost casually, in dusty history books. How could the fall of such a treasure trove of knowledge be forgotten? How could the intellectual heart of a civilization be reduced to a whisper? The truth is, the loss was not just for Baghdad. It was a loss for the entire world. Books and manuscripts that held centuries of wisdom, discoveries, and culture should have been passed down, handed from generation to generation, inspiring new ideas and progress. Instead, they were lost to time. But the question remains: who decided to let the story fade? Who chose to bury the truth of what was taken from the world's greatest library? Think about it. The destruction was so complete that the House of Wisdom's role as a center of learning and innovation was overshadowed by other histories. European narratives, colonial stories, and dominant cultures shaped the world's collective memory, and the story of Baghdad's intellectual triumph was pushed aside. This forgetting wasn't accidental. It was a consequence of power. When one group writes history, they decide what is remembered and what is erased. They decide which civilizations are celebrated and which are silenced. For centuries, the narrative focused on European progress, often ignoring or minimizing the incredible achievements of the Islamic Golden Age. The House of Wisdom represented a challenge to this narrative, a reminder that knowledge flourished in other parts of the world long before Europe's Renaissance. Acknowledging this would have meant recognizing that science, medicine, and philosophy had deep roots outside of the West, and that was a truth many were unwilling to accept. So the story of Baghdad's library was quietly buried under layers of silence, misinformation, and neglect. Its intellectual loss became a forgotten wound, yet some fragments survived. Some manuscripts made it through wars and fires, hidden by families, protected by scholars who refused to let the flame of knowledge die. But even today, these surviving texts are not well known. Many remain untranslated or locked away in archives, inaccessible to the public. This loss is not just historical, it is ongoing. The erasure of Baghdad's House of Wisdom from common knowledge mirrors a broader pattern of how powerful stories shape what humanity remembers and what it chooses to forget. The real tragedy isn't just that the house of wisdom burned, it's that the world allowed itself to forget its true value, that it moved on without mourning, without reclaiming the knowledge that was almost lost forever. Who decided to forget, and why? These questions linger because the answers are uncomfortable, because remembering the house of wisdom means facing a past where knowledge was not the monopoly of one culture or one people. It means challenging long-held ideas about progress, discovery, and the origin of modern science. And that's why the story was pushed into the shadows. But shadows cannot hold the whole truth forever. As more scholars uncover ancient manuscripts and as the world begins to re-examine its history, the legacy of the House of Wisdom slowly returns to light. The loss of that knowledge was not just Baghdad's loss. It was a loss for humanity. And if we truly want to understand where we come from and where we might go, we must remember what was lost. Because only by remembering the past can we hope to reclaim the future. The silence about what was lost is louder than any fire could be. When the House of Wisdom burned, it wasn't just the flames that erased what was inside. It was the silence that followed. The silence that shielded the most precious secrets. For centuries, rumors have whispered that what was lost wasn't just knowledge. What if, buried within those manuscripts, there were secrets that changed the course of history itself? The House of Wisdom wasn't just a place to read books, it was a center of discovery. What if these texts contained knowledge that the world wasn't ready for? What if they held the key to ancient technology, technologies so advanced that even modern science might be baffled by them? We're talking about ideas and principles that could have revolutionized the world long before the Industrial Revolution. Some of these texts, now lost to time, may have included knowledge of the universe, unfathomable astronomy that could explain things about the stars, the cosmos, and space that we're still only beginning to understand. What if they described planetary systems far beyond our solar system? What if they detailed celestial events, eclipses, and cosmic phenomena that no one had seen for thousands of years? It's possible that inside those books were mathematical calculations that surpassed what we know today. Calculations that could have predicted events with precision or even mapped out the stars in ways we still don't understand. But there's more to these lost manuscripts than just science. What if they contained mystical teachings, philosophies that weren't meant to see the light of day, philosophies that could challenge the core of our beliefs, the foundation of our understanding of existence itself? Some even say the text contains secrets about the nature of time, the universe, and human consciousness, things that were far ahead of their time. What if the ancients knew things that were forgotten or perhaps deliberately hidden to protect us from knowledge we weren't prepared to handle? Could this knowledge have changed the course of history? Imagine what the world might look like if the wisdom of the House of Wisdom had been passed down, not erased. What if that knowledge had shaped the Renaissance in a completely different way? What if we could have skipped centuries of ignorance or advanced science in ways we can't even imagine? And here's where the mystery deepens. If this knowledge was so powerful, who stood to gain from keeping it hidden? It's not just about the books. It's about the control over what we know and who decides what gets passed down to future generations. What if those in power, whether they were rulers, religious leaders, or other hidden forces, feared that this knowledge could upend the balance of power? What if they knew that the secrets contained within these lost texts could expose truths that threaten their very authority? The question isn't just about what was lost. It's about who wanted to keep it lost. What if the real loss wasn't the burning of the library, but the erasure of history, the scrubbing away of knowledge that didn't fit the narrative of the powers that be? History shows us time and again that knowledge is power, and those who control it shape the future. And so the whispers remain, tiny fragments of lost wisdom scattered across the world, carried by those who have never forgotten. Some believe that a few of these lost texts were taken, hidden away in private collections or secret libraries. Perhaps they were preserved in places we can't yet reach, tucked away in dusty archives, away from the prying eyes of the public. Maybe they were smuggled to foreign lands, hidden in places like the Vatican or secret societies, where they've been guarded for centuries. The mystery of the House of Wisdom doesn't just lie in the knowledge that was lost. It's in what was taken, who took it, and why it was hidden. What happened to the books? Were they truly lost? Or were they hidden away? When the Mongols descended upon Baghdad in 1258, they didn't just destroy buildings. They didn't just set fire to scrolls and manuscripts. What happened in that moment was far more than just the loss of material wealth. It was the loss of human knowledge itself. But was that knowledge truly lost? Or was it stolen, moved to places that would ensure it was hidden from the rest of the world? It's hard to believe that in such a dramatic moment, everything of value was simply destroyed in the flames. Some have never accepted that. In the chaos of Baghdad's destruction, it's entirely possible that those who knew the value of what lay in the House of Wisdom moved to protect it. Some manuscripts were hidden away, but where did they go, and who kept them safe? Some scholars believe that these manuscripts were preserved and secretly moved to other locations, hidden away by those who feared the immense power of the knowledge contained within them. Perhaps they were tucked away in hidden libraries, in private collections, or secret archives, far from the reach of those who sought to silence them. But the question remains, where are these hidden manuscripts now? One theory suggests they were brought to Rome, to the Vatican's vast, secretive archives. For centuries, the Vatican has guarded some of the world's most precious and forbidden knowledge. The Vatican Library houses texts and documents that have been kept hidden from the world for centuries. It wouldn't be far-fetched to think that some of the ancient wisdom of the House of Wisdom might have found its way there. If these texts were truly stolen, could they have been stored away, quietly tucked into vaults where no one could find them? But there's another possibility. What if the knowledge wasn't taken to Rome? What if it was hidden elsewhere, in places we have yet to uncover? Could these manuscripts still exist? What if they are buried somewhere in hidden vaults or tucked away in secret rooms, waiting for someone to discover them? There are stories of private collections, mysterious archives and libraries that contain ancient texts, some of which have never been seen by modern scholars. Could these lost manuscripts of the House of Wisdom be among them? Could they be waiting, buried deep within the hands of private collectors, or locked away in some far-off place? We may never know for certain. Some of the greatest minds of history have spent their lives searching for these lost books. And for generations, the quest to uncover the true fate of the House of Wisdom's knowledge has remained one of the world's most tantalizing mysteries. But the truth is someone somewhere still holds the key. The answer may not be lost forever. It could be hidden just beyond our reach, buried in the shadows of history. What if the knowledge contained in those manuscripts could change everything? What if they hold the answers to questions that we still haven't figured out? Answers about our history, about the nature of the universe, about human existence itself. The House of Wisdom may have burned, but its knowledge didn't vanish. It was preserved. The question is, where? Could the missing knowledge still exist? Are there hidden libraries, secret archives, or forgotten vaults where these manuscripts lie? The search continues, but the question remains open. Could it be that we're just one discovery away from unlocking some of the greatest secrets of the past? The House of Wisdom may have been destroyed, but the knowledge it contained was too powerful to disappear. Somewhere, those secrets are still waiting. The night the Mongols attacked Baghdad wasn't the end of the story, it was a turning point. The House of Wisdom was burned, but its legacy is far from gone. Its wisdom, its knowledge, its secrets are still out there, waiting to be uncovered. If the knowledge was stolen, then someone still holds the key. Perhaps the answer is out there, in a place we haven't thought to look yet, hidden in the most unexpected of places. Stay curious because some stories never truly end. The search for the House of Wisdom's lost knowledge might just be one of those stories that continues to unfold, generation after generation.